Death in Custody. Reading from the book by Aung San Suu Kyi, Letters from Burma, chapter titled Death in Custody, Part 2. The death certificate of Yu Hla Than, NLD Member of Parliament for the Coco Islands, who died on 2nd August as a political prisoner of the present military regime of Burma, stated that he had died of extensive coach's lung tuberculosis and HIV infection. Coincidentally, on the day of his death, extracts from a report on conditions in Burmese prisons by a student activist who had served time in the infamous Insean jail where Yu Hla Than was incarcerated for nearly 6 years, appeared in the Nation newspaper of Bangkok. The report states that owing to drug abuse, there is a high prevalence of HIV/AIDS in prisons. When administering injections, the doctors only give half or less than half of the vial to one patient, giving the rest to another patient from the same needle and syringe, almost guaranteeing that any blood-carried infection will spread. There can be little doubt that Yu Hla Than's death was brought about by the abysmal prison conditions that do not bear scrutiny by independent observers. The Red Cross left Burma in 1995 because of the refusal of the authorities to allow inspection of the prisons of the country. Yu Hla Than is certainly not the first prisoner of conscience to have died in the custody of the SLORC. Some leading members of NLD can be counted among those who have given their lives for the right to adhere to their deeply held political principles. The first of those was Yu Maung Ko, who ironically died during the visit of Mrs. Sadako Ugata, who had been sent by the United Nations Human Rights Commission to make inquiries into the human rights situation in Burma. Yu Maung Ko, 52 at the time of his death, was a civil servant who worked in the Rangoon Port Commissioner's office before he entered the democracy movement in 1988 as the General Secretary of the Dock Workers Union. When the NLD was founded, he became one of the pioneer members of the party. Yu Maung Ko was arrested and taken to Insean jail during the crackdown on democracy activists in October 1990. In less than 3 weeks, on 9th November, he was dead. His family learned of his death from workers at the Rangoon General Hospital, where his body was sent from Insean jail. The authorities claimed Yu Maung Ko had taken his own life after making a confession of his activities. Neither the content of the confession nor the circumstances under which it was extracted have ever been revealed. Many question the verdict of suicide. Friends and members of the family who saw Yu Maung Ko's body before burial assert that there were many marks on it to indicate that he had been badly tortured. The next NLD victim among the political prisoners of SLORC was U Ba Thaw, better known as the writer Mong Tho Ka. Hasya teacher Mong Tho Ka, as he was affectionately addressed by friends, colleagues and admirers, was an unforgettable character. He served in the Burmese Navy for many years and was involved in a shipwreck in 1916 while serving as a commanding officer on a Coast Guard cutter patrolling the southeastern coastline. When his vessel foundered, Lieutenant Ba Tho and the 26 other Navy personnel on board transferred to 2 inflatable life rafts. One life raft was lost with all 9 passengers on board, but the second life raft was rescued by a Japanese ship 12 days later. By then, 7 of the 18 men on the life raft were dead, and another man died on the rescue ship. Mong Tho Ka wrote a gripping book about the harrowing time he and his mates spent under a searing sun on the small life raft, which carried only boiled sweets and water sufficient to keep 10 men alive for 3 days. Hasya Mong Tho Ka's irrepressible sense of humor came across in many of his writings, which could perhaps be described as satire without malice. One of his witticisms became highly popular during the years of socialist rule in Burma. On being told that a fellow writer believed in ghosts, Hasya Mong Tho Ka riposted, "He believes in anything. He even believes in the Burma Socialist Program Party." Hasya Mong Tho Ka was also a poet. He not only wrote his own poetry, he translated many poems from English into Burmese, some of which were surprisingly romantic. The love poetry of Shakespeare, Robert Herrick, John Donne, and Shelley. There was also a translation of William Cowper's The Solitude of Alexander Selkirk, which he said was dedicated to himself. Perhaps it was the last verse that appealed to him. But the seafowl is gone to her nest. The beast is laid down in his lair. Even here is a season of rest, and I too my cabin repair. There is mercy in every place, and mercy encouraging thought gives affliction a grace and reconciles man to his lot. But there was no mercy for Hasya Mong Tho in inside jail. So this was a chapter titled Death in Custody by Aung San Suu Kyi, about a Navy officer who was also a writer, a poet, and a well-known figure, and why he was brutally killed in prison just for having written a satirical book about his experience from the tyranny of the Navy. This is the book that I'm reading from, and I would like to share this with you on the occasion of International Day of Disappeared Detainees, dedicating it to peace and independence everywhere. We all know that Aung San Suu Kyi herself rose a lot of such issues, though lately she was under criticism for not criticizing the Janta enough. But maybe, how much more can you criticize? I don't, Burma is just in such a bad chaos right now. Marking the day with her words. Thank you for listening.